Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. At least we hope you're there. and It's just me and Arend Smith from Ravendark Creations. We're going to just do some chatting today. So hey Aaron,
Hey, how you doing, David?
pretty good. How you doing?
Hanging in, working away.
Well, I see that you've been busy. I see a lot of things in the background there. I see your sea dragon.
Yeah. Got a couple of those. This one's been done for a bit. The kind of the rainbow.
Oh wow, that's bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah,
I'd seen the pictures, but that's bigger than I thought it was.
and a lot of my stuff's that way. A lot of people. I mean, I make stuff all the way down to these little guys.
Yeah,
You know,
I love those
some of the
guys.
last show, I think. And then the snailian, that's another small size. But a lot of my work is over like a foot, is over over a foot or two, or a foot or two tall, and a lot of the stuff's just huge. Like the creature suits that I've been working on. So it's a huge range of sizes, anything from the little collectibles all the way to just massive, massive creature suits and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, that's what I like about your work. Because I like to do big things and I like to do small too. So, quite a range. Um, so, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started? What inspired you? What led you down the path of fantasy sculptures and all the rest of the history?
well, it started off. I was originally I've been creative pretty much my whole life. So I was joking with my shop assistant Sam, who was out last just a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'm basically doing the same stuff that I did when I was 10. I remember building like this crazy mass out of these construction like erector set type things. Constructs was one of the brands back then, like Legos and that type of thing. And I would build like masks and just some crazy stuff. I was always cutting up cardboard boxes and making animals and stuff out of them. Um, and then I did some wire sculpting and just made these weird little uh, just kind of just wire sculptures in bottles with other elements and that kind of stuff like that I'd find on hikes and whatnot. Um, I did the rocking horsefly from Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was like 17 or 18, and I remember played around with some Sculpey and some wire and stuff, and made that. And then I just stopped. Adult life hit, and I was actually it was let's see, it was back in 2011 is when I started doing this, and I realized that everything I was doing, besides my day job, which was investment banking, was violent. I was running an MMA gym, and had a bunch of fighters, from scratch, guys just coming in all the way up to professionals that I was representing and training with. And I ran a long range shooting business with another friend of mine that was also part of the MMA gym. And I realized everything I was doing was just violent. There was no creativity or that kind of thing really involved in it, and I kind of wanted to get back to that. So I was going to get into wood carving, and I'm glad I didn't, because my brain, I don't know how yours is, but my brain works like additive process primarily. I do some carving in of details and whatnot, but I primarily like add clay to build forms out. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, I
I
would
don't
agree.
carve.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of so like I was going to get into wood carving, and then I went to Michael's, and the prices on the wood carving stuff, I was like, I can't do this. It's just to really get into it, it's just so much money. Um, but I looked, and there was some super sculpey like in the same aisle. I was like, I remember playing around with that like back like 15 years ago when I was younger, and made that rocking horse fly and stuff. I was like, I had fun with that stuff. So I got into that. I made this weird little like it was a little like from Brian Froud that does
Oh,
labyrinths,
love his work.
all that stuff. So yeah, I had one of his books, and I was like, I'm gonna make one of these little weird fairy monster nature creatures. and just got hooked. And when I get hooked on something, it's different than like a normal person enjoying something. I get immersed in it a lot of times. I kind of like hyper focus. So it was basically 2 or 3 years before I skipped a day of sculpting. Like I sculpted every single day for
Wow.
a couple of years. So a lot of people like they remark, it's like, oh, you got really good really fast. It's like I put the same hours in that a normal person would do in like 5 or 8 years. I did that in a year or two. Just grinding stuff out. I did that Paul Bonner Minotaur in the second year that I was sculpting those the dragons, the Game of Thrones dragons that I had. I think
Yeah.
you've got one of those, I think.
Yeah, I do.
I did that the second or third year that I was sculpting because, again, I just put so much time and so many sculpts in that, I developed pretty quick. And then from there, it just went, I made too many things for the apartment that I was in and started giving them away. So I started giving pieces away just to people that were friends and whatnot that liked it. And then from there, I started taking commissions, and then I set up an Etsy store. And then right after, I had the Etsy store just for a little bit, and it was getting a good bit of commission work and that kind of stuff coming in. Only doing one of a kinds at that point. I wasn't molding anything. And I met my wife on DeviantArt of all places. The old art
Oh,
website.
yeah.
Not really used much, and it's kind of like MySpace for artists at this point. But we met there, and everything just clicked with the art stuff. I brought her on board as a concept artist for me because I can't draw at all, at all. And I had a client that wanted a piece done. So Laura did like 3 or 4 sketches, and the lady goes, I like the pose in this first one, and I like the head from this one, and I like the tails from this other one. So she did like a composite sketch of the things the lady liked. And then I did the sculpt off of her concept art. And then we hit it off so well that we were like, we got to start dating, and we've been married now for 6-7 years. So yeah, everything worked out just from the artwork. And we originally shared the Ravendark Creations name because her work was pretty dark back then. And now I stayed and went kind of more dark into almost the horror genre with some of my work, and she went the exact opposite. So I don't know if you got a chance to see her work last Comic-Con, but it's more, she's doing she just actually, I'm gonna show her stuff real quick.
Yeah, please.
Just put this book out. Just finished
cool.
this up. It's going in production, but it's Be Kind to Me, and it's all the artwork is a lot. It's basically the exact opposite of mine, but focused on the same nature-based themes. But she has here's like a little moth in there, just really cute,
well done,
fun, happy stuff. And here's another. This is my mug that she has too. There's a little ant guy on there.
I love it. That's cool.
With a little mushroom character on the other side, that kind of stuff. So people always laugh because they're like, we'll take the same subject matter and I'll do something really super dark, and kind of scary, and she'll do the light side of it. So we balance each other out that well now. So, but yeah.
Yeah, you did a mushroom character too. Let's see. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
And we do concept art off of each other all the time, or like fan art. So she's primarily me copying her stuff. But one of the people at Comic-Con this past year comes over and he goes, "Hey man, this lady has the exact same weird frog monster that you have." And I go, "Yeah, she put me off. I can't believe she put me off." But she did a painting of this little guy, that's got the tusks.
Oh yeah, I love that guy. He's really good.
But most of the time, it's me copying some idea that she's come up with, and I've got two or three pieces on my work in progress bench over here that are she's got a toad creature from one of her novels that she wrote, and these little trolls and stuff from another story. So we keep going back and forth off of each other with this kind of stuff. So it's nice, and I was able to hire her on full time with me this past year. And she does all like the seaming on my silicone pieces. So she'll cut all the, the flashing and whatnot. She trims all that down perfectly. And I put out a lot of like small silicone pieces. She does all the work on those, including a lot of the paint work. Yeah, I couldn't do this without her. I'm partially colorblind is the other thing. So
Oh, wow.
She checks all my color schemes. I paint by value.
Yeah.
Really well. I don't see a lot like blues and greens. Almost all blues look green to me, unless they're like really like an ultramarine blue. I can see that. Everything else looks green. So it's like I'll put stuff together that really should not go together if I'm left unsupervised. So
My
yeah,
son,
she helps with that stuff.
my son's colorblind. He has the same problem.
Yeah.
So you both full-time artists now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing that. I was like I said, an investment banker for 13, 14 years, and did straight investments for Wells Fargo back in the day as well. But yeah, I switched over back 2 years ago now. I've been full time for 2 years, and then or almost 2 years, and then Laura, I was able to bring her on about 6 or 8 months after because the volume picked up to the point where I just couldn't keep up. So I released a bunch of new stuff that I'd been working on for a while and was able to finally, just sculpt and make things, and the business just kind of took off. Did a good bit of shows that I'd never really done before. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, she came on board, and about 6-8 months after that, I was able to pull her on full time, and then she would help me, basically 10-15 hours a week, and then do her own art for the other side. So it was kind of a good mix, good time for her to do that. So yeah.
Cool. And we got a few listeners in our chat room.
Oh, nice.
John F. and Destin Ogle. And there's several others who haven't identified themselves yet.
Oh. Cool. Glad some people are watching. So yeah. And that's the neat thing you were saying with the YouTube stuff is like it'll be up, on your channel, so people can come in afterwards even if they missed it. So yeah.
Yes.
Neat.
Yeah. Hopefully we've got good sound. Everybody can hear us fine, I hope, and the picture's clear. We'll see. We'll see what they say. All right. So you just kind of gradually came on with this, thinking that you wanted an outlet for creativity, and sculpting just came to you as a solution for that. But you have had to work at it, over time to get better and better.
Yeah, everybody talks about like talent and this kind of thing, and I think there probably is something to that. There is, some people pick things up more easily than others. It just happens in all fields. The main thing that I found, especially with like when I was training fighters, the really talented guys that come in and just do amazing, typically would do really well for a bit, and then they got lazy because everything was easy. And they never were the fighters that got to like pro level, because they do really well in amateur stuff, but as soon as they hit something that was hard, they'd stop. They just kind of give up because everything was easy, and it wasn't challenging for them. So it's like a talent takes you, so far. But the main thing is just study for me.
Mm-hmm.
I got onto the Shiflett Brothers forum like back in the day, or really early on, like when it was the actual old school like separate website that you had to go to, like an old style forum. It was just blown away by the work that those guys and a lot of the guys on the forum were doing, and then the community is just amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is really fantastic. I think that now on Facebook, the Shiflett Brothers forum has grown to like 30,000, maybe. I don't know, something crazy like that.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got a ton of guys on there that are working in Hollywood and are just top tier people, and they all chime in and help out. If you have any questions on like mold making or process or anything, like you'll get 10 or 15 top level people chiming in a lot of times, telling you like, "Oh, this is how you do this," Really early on, there was a guy, and I can't pronounce his last name, Shane Fulks. That's one of the top paleo guys, dinosaur, sculptors.
Mm-hmm.
And I commented on his work, and he checked my gallery out. This is back on DeviantArt. And we started talking. I asked him some questions. He sent me this whole package of sculpting tools, some stamps that he had used, and like answered a bunch of questions about how he did the different stuff that he had done. Without me, I mean, I didn't ask for any of that, and it was just incredible to get this like package from someone that was like a top tier professional. The guy's been doing this professionally for years. His stuff's I think his stuff's in a lot of museums even. And he just sent a novice sculptor a whole care package with, like I said, custom made stamps that he did for skin textures.
Wow.
And this kind of, it's just unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got started. I watched the Shiflets video that's on Noman Workshop. I got that video and just devoured it, and then got on to the Sam Winston School. And that was a big mistake, because in a good way, because it opened my eyes to all just the insane materials that are out there for all of this stuff, and the projects that you can do. Because before I was limited to just like, I'm going to make super sculpty sculptures, and that was it. And then it's like, you can do movie level prosthetics, you can do creature suits, you can do like these crazy masks and latex, silicone, just whatever. And I got on there and just devoured everything. I mean, I watched every video a couple times. One of my guys, actually the guy that did the light rig for my spider suit that just got done, is a guy named Justin from Just in Time Props is his company. But he, a huge thank you to him if he's watching.
I'm going to bring up that spider suit.
For doing all those lights. It's got tons of lights. There are lights that are in that suit that I don't do any of that kind of stuff. But we were joking. He goes, yeah, I'm watching this video on this. He's like, it's an alien. And I was like, oh, it's Casey Love, and it's in Super Sculpey. I was like, I haven't seen that. He instantly knew exactly what he's talking about for that vague description, because I've watched all those so many times, And for me, originally, doing commissions was big because it gave me deadlines and people that I had to make happy. So it wasn't like just like, hey, I made this piece, isn't it great? It was like I had to make pieces for people and satisfy them. And I added that extra level of like, I got to really push. So every piece that I was doing, I looked at it like it was a commission, even if it wasn't. So it was like, I have to make this thing better. And I still have that attitude now. And it's good and it's bad, because a lot of times I can't enjoy pieces that I've done. As soon as I finish it, it's like I see the flaws, and we were talking about that a little before we got on. All I see are the flaws, and I just don't want it anymore. I think it's terrible. But the next one's going to be really good. So I always have that kind of attitude where I always want to learn new things and just get better. And I love materials. I try all the new materials that come out. Smooth On just released a new it's a slower setting expanding foam, and it does a shell on the outside.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the 15. It's the Flex Foam 15 or whatever it is. So I instantly am like, what can I make? What can I make? With this stuff. So I'm doing a prosthetic. You'll get a kick out of this. I'm doing a prosthetic appliance for a prosthetic limb. So it's a prosthetic for a prosthetic. My neighbor is just an awesome guy. Lost his leg below the knee, and he gets done with the surgery and whatnot, and he tells me after I ask like what's happening here, like what's going on, because he's just walking around normal, and then he's missing a leg, and he tells me all the stuff that happens. But the guy, the smile on his face the whole time, you never see him down in this kind of thing. I'm like, and he's always helped out around our place with yard stuff. He'll just wander over in the middle of leaf raking, and just he's got a big gadget that gathers all this stuff and just does it. just does it for us. Super nice guy. And I was like, I'm gonna make. He said he told his mother, he's like, I bet my neighbor Aaron could build some kind of like really crazy like alien leg for me.
Oh man, that would be cool. Yeah.
I was like, you know what, I need to do this. So I'm like this, and I told him, I was like, I got this new material, super lightweight, and we'll do it as so basically it's this big flat mold. I took a tracing of his prosthetic and did that on a flat surface, and now so I'll make this thing, sculpt the skin, and then do that stuff in there. The I keep saying Ecoflex. I got to do a vampire baby, and that's stuck in my brain. But that new material is going to be lightweight, super durable, and flexible. So if you bump something, it's not going to hurt anything. So I was like, "You're good. We're going to do this now." So I just love just weird projects. So it's a lot of fun, man.
That is perfect because you can go really make something really wild looking.
Yeah.
Dustin says sculpting seems like it would be difficult for commission work due to the material cost versus graphic art or pen and paper. So,
I absolutely agree. I don't take many commissions anymore. It basically has to be something I already want to make, and a lot of times I really don't do one-of-a-kinds anymore, because and Forrest Rogers is one of the top sculptors on earth. The woman it is just incredible.
Yeah.
Level, everybody knows her work that's been doing this stuff. She's been open about her struggles financially with doing this, and she's on the cover of art anthologies.
I believe she lost or it couldn't. Something about her mortgage. That's all I remember.
She sold the house that she's been in since she was a kid. I actually teared up and got kind of broken up about that. She wrote a letter. I'm one of her Patreon supporters, and she shared that, and it was for me it was super frustrating that type of work's not being rewarded to the level that it should. But it was also kind of a wake-up call for me. I want to do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to, and originally I wanted to do one of a kind, but I originally hated mold making with passion beyond belief. It was just...
Well, yeah. I have to agree with you there. Mold making, not fun.
Like now.
Well, it's okay, but it's not like sculpting.
I enjoy it now to the point where we were in an artist meetup a while ago. One of my artist friends had this piece that needed to be molded. It was super easy, so it was cake. But I was like, here, instead of me telling you how to do this, we're going to do this right now. And this is at a party that we're at my house, which is as part of the studio and whatnot. But we did a mold like right there, and everybody was watching. So I don't mind it now, but back then I hated it. So I wanted to do one of a kinds. And just do commission work and that kind of stuff. That was something I really enjoyed in the beginning. And then I realized it's really tough to make a living that way. Yeah. People, for me to do this, like this little guy, as a one of a kind,
and then sell it, and then then you got the problem of yeah. So
I'd have to charge minimum.
Yeah, and then what you sold it, now you have to make another one, whereas you can do a single figure, make it really cool. Like I did a little miniature dragon head, and I molded that thing and put a limited edition run on it. And coming to the end of that run, but by the time that I'm at the end of that run, I have $32,000. Whereas if I sold just a single original, maybe in the
1,500.
Yeah, maybe, and that was a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work goes into those things when you're sculpting. I don't think you can actually. Well, I mean, selling originals, and I know that we both put in more hours than what we actually report. It's
Oh,
like I lose track of time, and I think I've got 30 hours in this, or whatever it is. But at that point, I'm pretty much just guessing because for one
yeah.
reason or another, I forget to track.
Well, the other thing is my wife is a 2D artist. So Laura she paints and draws. She started helping with this stuff. And we've been married, been running the business for, as a, on the side, as a part-time thing for quite a while, since 2011. But she came on and she was helping me, she was helping paint certain things. Some of the pieces I was teaching her how to paint these things. And she's holding this thing and she goes, "There's another side," like in frustration. Like, it's ridiculous. She's like, it just never ends, And she's helped at every step, step of the way. So she's like, this is nuts, because she was complaining about having traditional pieces and having to scan them and then color correct them and then, go to the printers. And she's like, I will never complain again about having to do 2 steps. She's like, mold making is this whole just crazy, involved nightmare process. And then you've got to cast it. You've got to get rid of the seams. You've got to patch any, air bubbles that are there or imperfections. You got to get that all perfect. And then you've got to paint it. And then you've got to photograph it. And then and all this stuff. She's like, it's just too much work. She's like, she's like, you have to be nuts to do this. So I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So yeah, 2D stuff versus sculpture, really, it's night and day. But there's something about, for me at least, and my walls are covered with with 2-dimensional paintings and artwork from all the artists that I follow and stuff. But there's something about being able to touch and hold a piece, or just to see it from a slightly different angle and have the character of the thing change, that's just magical.
Yeah.
There's nothing else like it for me. And I think for a lot of people, and because sculpting is so hard to do, and because it's really involved, and it's expensive to get into. I mean, I've got talking about artists, not supporting stuff and are not being productive members of society and stuff. I spent $32,000 in art supplies last year. So that's a boost to the economy right there. We buy a lot of stuff just to make what we make.
Yes, we do.
And it just, and even when I was doing this as a hobby, it was really common for me to, to shell out 15,000-20,000 in materials.
Right.
And there's a reason, like, the cosplay community primarily uses EVA foam. It's because it's super cheap, so you can afford to do this stuff. Because a lot of these projects, I was talking to my buddy Jim, who's big in the cosplay. Jim cosplay. He's pretty well known in that community. I was like, why do you guys use this EVA? It's great for certain things, but it's all you guys use for everything. Everything's EVA foam. And then he's like, Aaron, what did that dagger cost you to make? I had a crazy bone dagger that I carved. I was like, a couple $100. I was like, what's the big deal? And he's like, exactly. He's like, this whole armor set that he had just made was like he did for $100.
Right. They just go to Walmart and pick up some of those mats and carve away.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to do with some of that stuff was like, okay, I'll foot the bill for this. The molding is the big expense. I will foot the bill for this and pay for the molds and all the sculpting materials and stuff, which a lot of times are not cheap. Like in a bigger wed clay piece, you'll go through $100, $200 worth of clay, sometimes. And then it's not reusable. You just gotta, it's dirt. You gotta throw it back, throw it out. So it's like, I will foot the bill for that up front, and then I will sell copies. It's like we talked about, instead of a one of a kind, you can sell copies of this thing.
Right.
I could sell the reproductions. They're super light. They're really durable, way more durable than EVA foam. and they're unique because it gives you kind of an edge if you're in the cosplay community, because it's not something everybody else has, because your thing is hard. It's resin, or like one of the rubbers, more flexible rubbers. It just looks and feels different, and it feels more real a lot of times. So it's like, but again, the average person's not going to shell. They're not going to shell out to do it themselves because it's just too expensive.
I
Sculpting
think
is that way. It's expensive to get it. It's expensive to do.
yes, I it differs from 2D art in the sense that 2D artists will paint a painting and then have a print, but they don't go back and repaint that print. They don't start adding to that print,
Yeah.
Whereas with our stuff, we are replicating it, but we still have to paint it. There's that, and then there is the aspect of I do think, in a sense, though, that there is the aspect that folks like to have a tangible good over a print, so they'll go and they like that feel of being able to pick up something and put it onto the shelf and hang on to it. It's a tangible piece of art.
Well, and one thing that I've noticed, and you've probably seen too, people will come up, kids especially, they'll come up to the booth and table. And I like how your stuff is high. It gets rid of a lot of the younger crowd just can't reach up there. But my stuff's usually on the regular tables. But the kids come over, and I still remember it was the best moment, because this mom walks up with her son, and her son goes, and he's really polite, really nice about stuff, but he starts like petting one of the pieces. The mom is doing the exact same thing, and she turns to the kid. She goes, "Oh, don't touch the artwork," as she's petting the piece, just like he was. And she gets herself. She's like, "Mommy can do this. It's okay." But there's that urge.
Oh yeah.
To feel things and to touch things that we all have, and you can do that with with the sculptures, to a degree. Or at least feel that you could do it. But you see those the big statues outside of especially sports stadiums, where the patina has worn off of the bronze from people reaching up and touching the thing's feet.
Yeah.
Like it's something we don't want to do.
It's compelling.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I'm doing a lot more silicone pieces, and with silicone. You can manhandle those things. I mean, it's crazy. To a much higher degree. Like something like this, you can only interact with so much. Because it's hard. It's
but
the silicone, man, you can squish it and.
Oh, the octopus and the teacup. Let me get that up there.
Oh. But people all day long, man, at conventions, that's all they do is they sit there and they walk up and they poke at those things, which is encouraged for those.
Oh yeah, that is so fun. Hey, Dustin asked, let me put his question up on the board. So, sculpting, do you shoot for wide range appeal? Do you go for something that do you purposely sculpt to appeal to a large audience?
If you want to do this as a, I'm torn on this, because you could answer either way and be fine. I don't personally. I make, and I've always done this from day one, I make weird stuff that I like. I really don't do a lot of fan art, and when I do, it's like the snailian, thing that's just bizarre.
Oh, I love that one. That one's so weird.
That's been a huge hit, and that piece sat for 6 or 8 months, half finished. I did it, just kind of as a joke, and it blew up to be it's been an internet meme. It's been featured on a ton of places. It went viral, actually. A couple times now, but I really think that you need to make what you want to make and what you're passionate about, and the people will naturally, the people like you that have similar interests will find your work. Going the fan art route, like straight fan art, where you're just making, you're making another Deadpool statue or something like that, or a mask. If you're super into that, that's cool and you can do it. You got issues with, eventually, and I say with fan art, leaving all the legality aside, with fan art, if you're doing it because you love it, I think it's fine. Like you're saying I love you to something, that had a big influence on you. Like me doing, stuff from Labyrinth or from Dark Crystal or any of those kind of things, or any of Brian Froud's work. He had a profound impact on my development artistically and as a kid. So me doing fan art of that, I think, is cool, because I'm saying I love this stuff. Legally is a whole nother matter. If you're doing something just to make a buck, I don't like that. And typically those artists never really develop, I don't think,
All right.
to their potential, because they're, instead of being really fully creative and coming up with something on their own, and it's as unique as they can make, it's like a band that only does cover songs.
Right. And I know when we go to the shows, there's always a certain amount of artists who are just have walls of drawings they've done, but it's almost an exact copy of somebody else's work.
And for me, it's like for me, I look at for me it would be wrong to make a straight xenomorph sculpture and sell in like the alien, the creatures as that xenomorph. For me, I personally would not feel good about doing just that. If it was some kind of weird take or something like that, and I might do it as a one of a kind myself or something, but I would feel bad selling that personally. The other thing is, you're not going to compete with the guys at Sideshow Collectibles that have the license for that and have the top sculptors in the world, sometimes 3 and 4 of them working on a piece.
Right.
So for me, it's like, why would I?
Why? Yeah, I agree with you there. It's finding something that you really love to do and doing it, in your own style and your own way is way more worth it, way more rewarding.
Now the fan art stuff does, it sells well. But again, for me, it's got to be something like the Snailien. I've got another piece I'm working on that's like the Predator. Snailien. It's like the Predator Caterpillar thing that I'm doing.
But those are clever mashups. Those are.
And I think that kind of stuff's cool. I think that kind of stuff can be a lot of fun, where you're still kind of hitting that fan base. The other thing you can do is any kind of, there's no copyright on nature. So if you want to do, creatures, like I could sculpt octopuses. Just that could be the only thing I ever sculpt for the rest of my life, and I would still be getting better at sculpting that thing, and I would still love it.
I enjoy that too. I really do. But I like doing weird twist on it.
Well, that's the Cthulhu stuff. Like some of the stuff you've done is, and that new box that you're sculpting live on the Twitch thing is really cool. So yeah.
I wanted to bring up, where is that? I'm trying to find the caterpillar thing that you did, or the slug. Yeah, there it is. Oh man, this thing really rocks. It's the one with the tentacles and the.
Oh yeah, that's a
all right. The spines coming up on his back. Oh, it's awesome.
That was a commission piece, and this is. I told Angela, who's the lady that commissioned that, I said, you're going to get your 15 seconds of fame. I apologize, Angela. She commissioned me to do 3 of these things.
Wow.
A while ago. I told her no a couple times. She sent money. I'd done commission work for her before. She sent money directly into my PayPal account because she had the address. It was like, no, you're doing these for me. So I appreciate her so much and her patience. I have started the second one, but that piece was actually done for her. And she just told me, kind of just go nuts, make something just crazy, and have it be like a bookworm idea. Some of those have like little runes and little weird alphabet symbols and stuff painted on those little orbs that are on the side of it.
Oh,
So
I
it's
love
like,
that idea. Yeah.
it would be like it, uses the tentacles to absorb the book, and then they show up like the letters and stuff show up on the sides. So that was her version that she got. So
Wow, I like that idea. I think she's in the chat room here.
oh,
She
nice.
says that's my idea. Frosted
Yeah,
brownies is her handle.
yeah, yeah,
Ha ha ha! Finally.
yeah. I am working on it. I am working on it. So I stopped. I realize that I am awful at commissions. I am the worst because
I
a
don't
lot
think
of the
any
best.
artist is good at commissions. Tell you the truth.
I My problem, and most of the people that I work with are like, Aaron, make me something cool. I love your style. Here's an idea. Make me something cool. And they
No,
don't
that
have they don't have like a laundry list of they don't have a laundry list of things. Like they and they're minimal feedback. Um, so it's not like those really bad commissions that have like 20 things that have to be there, and it's got to be an exact replica of this. I've done that kind of work before. It's really challenging, and it's very good for you as an artist in some ways, but it's not great. It's not great once you're established to do that kind of stuff. It'll drain your life and your time. Um, for me, a lot of times the piece will have to sit. Well, like that snailian, it sat for 6 months, 6 to 8 months, because I had this section done. I knew what to do there. The face was done. I could not, for the life of me, figure out what to do with this section and with this little tail section here.
oh, it was so good, man.
I
So
couldn't,
so
I, I
good.
couldn't, I couldn't figure it out. And for me, it's like when I hit a block and I get something that has to be solved, it's got to sit till I come up with it, And sometimes I'll try, like I was sculpting. I was sculpting live at Art Prize a couple years ago here in Grand Rapids at a comic shop, and I was sculpting this dragon, this mother dragon with 3 babies, like big. The thing's really big, and people would come. It was for weeks, so I'd come every weekend. On my days off, I'd come and I'd sculpt for like sometimes like 5, 6 hours, 7 hours straight, and that was a blast. But people would come back like the next week, and they were like, its face is totally different. I'm like, I didn't like it, so I put another face on there. So I was like, it wasn't right. So a lot of times it's trial and error that I'll just sit there and I'll work on it till it's done. But a lot of times I've got another fawn piece that I did that was about 2 feet tall. That was another piece, man. It sat for 6 months because I was like, I cannot solve the texture for the horns. I can't. It just doesn't look right, and I don't know what I want to do with it. So I let it sit. And one day it just hit me. I saw this tree on one of my walks, and I was like, that's it. The tree texture of this tree is what I need for this piece. And then it was solved, and then I finished it in like a day, But a lot of times with commission work, there's a deadline.
Yeah. Deadline,
Um,
yes.
and it's good. Those are great and they're bad. They're great because it pushes you to solve problems, really quickly. But they're kind of tricky a lot of times because a lot of times your first choice for a form is not the best form, is not the best choice. Sometimes it's like, sometimes it's like the third or fourth thing that you come up with or you tweak that's the best. And that's my problem. Originally, people were like, "Oh, you should work in Hollywood," and I kind of wanted to do that for a bit until I actually worked on a movie, and then it's like, I don't want to do this ever again. Like, this is awful. Even though it was it was a great director and stuff that I worked with, it was just like I didn't like the deadlines, and it was part of that was I was new to building stuff. I mean, I won an award for the suit that was from Sam Winston School. I won 2018 their Alien Design Award.
Oh, cool.
That original spider suit that I built, and that got included in an art anthology and stuff too. But it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
The deadline kicked my butt, and thankfully I had a client hit me up. He's like, I love this mask, and I'd done this chest piece for like a spider with mandible legs and stuff coming off. He's like, I want that, but I want like a full suit. And that's how that recent one that I just finished up this week, that big spider suit. That's how that came to be. But it was great.
Your poor wife. You made her pose.
I think the guy that commissioned it might be on, actually. So yeah, Laura went to the ring with that, man.
That was the original. Let's
What's
see.
that?
I'm going through these pictures here. Yeah, Laura's in this.
Yeah.
It's awesome looking, man.
But it was great because I got to revisit that suit, and like all the forms that I didn't like, I was able to resculpt, a second time and make something I actually liked a lot more than the original design. So that can be a lot. Actually, I have one of the. This is one of the medium legs.
Whew.
So that, and I came up with all these crazy like flower and insect forms. The feet, I
yeah.
love that type of foot with the overlapping plates and stuff. Rotocast, so it's super light. But try doing that in EVA foam.
Yeah. Hey, John.
There are probably people out there that can do that, but.
John F. Let me put his up here. He says, always prefer odd and unique items. Many artists sell the same characters at conventions. So he likes the, something that stands out, which, I do too, but it's hard to come up with those sometimes.
Well, for me, it's the opposite problem, because all my ideas are just weird for the most part. I mean, just strange stuff. And a lot of it will relate to other, like Froud is a big influence. I mentioned him quite a few times, but, I lost my train of thought. But
well, one thing leads to another. It's like you start working on something, you get into that project, and then something it'll take your mind into another vein, and that's people ask how you come up with those kind of ideas, and it's really just you have to get in there and you have to start working somewhere, and then that leads to other ideas down the road.
It all flows out. And then from doing this little piece, I'm getting back into the one of a kind stuff. So I had some cosplay. I don't know if you've played around with that yet, but it's neat stuff. But it's getting into more like crazy insect type forms and that kind of thing. So the little guy's work in progress there. But
so now the cosplay, it stays like a rubber like instead of getting very hard, or does it
yeah, no, it's a cosplay is what Super Sculpey should be.
Really?
So it sculpts just like Sculpey. Like if you can sculpt, and I love to rake.
Mm-hmm.
I love to rake forms to refine them, and you can't rake any of the polymer clays really. And the same with Avis epoxy and those things. I loathe sculpting in those things because I love to be able to add and subtract now. That's how I've developed. Because I love wet clay, which is the water-based clay, and I love monster clay, which is oil-based. Both of which rake so well.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, adding is easy, subtracting is easy. So I get into the polymer clays or Avis epoxy or Magic Sculpt, and I feel like I'm sculpting with a hand tie behind my back, because it's like I can't, without dremeling or something, I can't do subtractive stuff. But for stick thin bug type things with a lot of tendrils, and I love sculpting that kind of stuff, you can't mold that kind of thing very easily.
No.
A bunch of quills on the back or something, like I have to add those in after.
Hey, unless you want to break it apart, and then that's a pain in the butt too. This
stuff, when you bake it, you can bend it on itself, and it'll snap back. It's crazy stuff. So Amazing product. If you like sculpting and Sculpey, ditch Sculpey right now. Nothing against the company, but ditch it and switch to cosplay like today, because it's night and day better. I stopped sculpting and Sculpey after a bunch of my commission pieces broke in transit, because they're Sculpey pieces and they do not ship well. They just don't. they're fragile. And part of that is the forms that I was building are those long, thin forms, and it's just not built. It's not meant for that. But I had a lot of breakage, and I just got fed up with the product, and that's really what pushed me into doing. I got into monster clay originally. The original formula I did not like. It was weird and gritty. Sometimes you hit like a thing where you'd be smoothing, and it was great, and then it would just like crumble. Weird. They fixed that in the subsequent things. It's amazing now. So I switched to Chavant. I love Chavant, but it doesn't. There's problems when I use solvents like naphtha to do the smoothing step, which a lot of people don't. It's probably safer, but I love how I can quickly smooth forms down. And Chavant gets really gummy when you do that. So I didn't like that. So I switched. I was like, I'm going to give monster clay a try again. And it's amazing. Like that stuff, that's just the best to sculpt in. But I switched to that so that I could, and then I was like, I'm going to have to do molds now and just do resin, and that's basically where I started to switch and get away from doing one of a kinds. And then I was like, I can sell 50 or 100 or 1,000 of these things after doing one sculpture. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is amazing,
right.
And that kind of turned me around on what I wanted to do as far as my collectible line, and there was a while, you saw that Killer Croc that I did with Jim cosplay. He watched your booth, I think, at one of the Comic Cons. But I wanted to get into the prosthetic appliance stuff and all that for a while, and it's just so much work. And then I had to hit the problem. I started selling some of those. People were flying them and painting them really badly, and that freaked me out because it was like, it just bugs me that my artwork would end up looking hideous, if it was done, if it was applied wrong and that kind of thing. So I'm too much of a control nut to think that's
you
good.
did
I don't sell any resin kits anymore because I want, except for the snailiens, I allow it on those. But my other pieces, I only sell my painted versions. Like, unless someone really asks. I've got a couple collectors really curious that I'll sell my blanks to.
Yeah, I can count on my hand the number of people who have actually asked me for, to be able to paint their own, which I don't know if I really mind so much, but it's, I do like the fact that I can, this is my complete art when I've actually painted it.
Well, I read an article from Tom Keebler, who's just one of the best sculptors ever. The guy's just incredible. Does the life-size silicone pieces, and one of the nicest people ever too. He had an article in Amazing Figure Modeler, which is the kit. the thing where you go for kits, garage kits,
right,
for unpainted things for these guys to paint. And he's like, no, I don't sell any. He's like, I don't sell any unpainted pieces. I just don't. Like, when you're buying my art, it's a finished piece and it's there. He says it'd be like an artist, doing a painting and then stripping the color off and selling it as a, colored
paint by numbers.
paint by number, color page. Like, oh yeah, I don't like that. So from that point on, like, I'll do it for certain people. I've got one collector that she's actually done a bunch. The big dragon head that I have.
Yeah.
She has those, and she's bought a couple of the seahorse dragons. But she's a top level painter. Like, her work is unreal. So I don't mind, certain people that's their hobby. Like, I'll help them out, but I don't advertise it really. Because again, it's like I want, if it's got my name on it, I want it to be my work. You know what I mean? Like, from start to finish for the most part. So, but there's a lot of. Rick Cantu has painted a couple of my pieces. He makes my paint jobs. He's a professional painter. He makes my paint schemes look terrible, compared to what he can do. But again, it's like it's at that point it's a collaboration with another artist, which can be a lot of fun. But it's not your work at that point. It's our work. You know what I mean? So it's a little different thing.
That, yeah. I'm just going through some of these sculptures that you've done. I thought there was a prosthetic that you did for like a witch creature. Here we go. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, with the
yeah,
big axe,
yeah,
the
with a big
crazy.
axe. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a female White Walker
yeah, that
uh,
looks really good.
kind of sculpt that I did. That was a lot of fun. That one I still do offer actually. It's one of the few prosthetic pieces I still offer. That one though, instead of it being like a multi-piece where you got to apply everything perfectly with all the seams,
Right?
that is just a one piece. So you put the glue on the actress, and it's a female fit, that's the only reason. There are a ton of good White Walker male masks out there.
Right?
So I want to do something for women that want to cosplay those characters. So I did just the female fit version, and you put the glue on your face, you put the glue on the mask, and you stick it on, and you're done. And arrange the wig and whatnot. But super easy, and it's not something that you can screw up. And that's how I got into silicone masks, because there's something about the movement that you get the silicone. You can emote and express through that silicone. Jim's girlfriend at the time, when he was in that crazy prosthetic, she walked in after I, kind of transformed him, and she was really weirded out by it because he turned into a monster, But she said after an hour or two, it's really weird. It was just Jim. He was just himself, because you could read all of his normal expressions through that makeup,
Yeah, that is what is so cool. Oh, you
So
did
I
that.
love
You
that stuff,
you,
but
you
it's
did that
interesting.
baby vamp too. That was weird.
Yeah, that's a cool silicone piece too. And I did that for a collector,
Ooh.
and she was fine with me selling copies like that. I told her I'm gonna have to sell copies. But I did that piece and thought, hey, there's maybe one or two other people out there going to want this ridiculous. It's $1,000. The thing's like $1,100 for just one piece.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I'll make one other one of this thing. And I sold like 6 on the pre-order.
Wow.
We did a pre-order special and sold like 5 or 6, and then just a ton of those things sold. I think I'm on like number 15 or something, for
That,
this crazy thing. So,
that's got to be
but
a
then
chunk of silicone there.
you can interact with it, man. So it's this crazy piece. You can like bend. It's got an armature in there, so you can like pose it with the wings out and all this kind of stuff. So yeah,
Very
those
cool.
pieces are fun, man.
Oh man, I think you mentioned that we're going to take a tour of your house. Do you have there was a big dragon that you were telling me about, the moss guy. Wait a minute.
Yeah, we could do that.
If you want to, I mean, you didn't.
I was more planning on doing that on a separate video, but I don't know if I've cleaned enough. So.
Oh, hey, no problems. Hey, look, I'll bring up the green guy here. Oh man, I've seen him multiple times on like Pinterest and other places.
Yeah, that was the pieces that made the rounds. Yeah. And that piece, we took that to the Michigan Renaissance Festival like a while ago. That piece, the lady's got one more payment. That piece is sold, so that lady's got one more payment to make on that. It'll be gone, and I'll be sad. It's a fun having a pet dragon in your house. But
well, I guess it's also important to stress how big this guy is, because
size of a small couch.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing when I built an armature for that, and it's all it's tucked in on this rock. If you have a picture of it, but it's when I built it and stretched it out, it has a 14-foot wingspan.
Wow. Wow.
And it's a big, and I think it's 6 feet nose to tail, but it takes up like a love seat. It's a big piece.
My wife's always criticizing because I like to go bigger. Like, let's get it. Let's make it the size of a house.
Oh, I know. But speaking of the Renaissance Festival, that's one. We're looking at buying a full-time building there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love making the big stuff, but it's like as a business owner, I have to justify it because the number of collectors, as soon as you get over $1,000 or $1,500, the number of collectors in that market dwindles very rapidly. It seems like they're out there.
They're
But
out
it's like
there.
you gotta have something
It
really
surprises
special.
me every once in a while. It's like, holy moly.
Yeah, and you get people that are, shelling out 20 and 30,000 for some of Tom's pieces, but to keep Tom Keebler's, but yeah, this building, it's a whole building that I can put giant monsters in, and it's 2 stories, and the upstairs part has like a balcony and stuff, and I'm like, I could build so many like giant. It'd be like a Disneyland attraction. It's kind of my idea for this place. Um, and then I have a business reason to make,
Yeah. Make
so
a dragon that you can actually ride on, where think about this. I mean, and I've thought about it quite a bit, but you have little steps that you make so the kids can safely climb up on this neck of a dragon, and you charge photos, snap, snap.
you were
But
set, man. Yeah.
just for my own sake, I want to do it, because I want
Oh, I
to.
know, and that's always how it is with this stuff. It's like,
I,
I'm a businessman, and I have, I am licensed to give stock advice. So I know business stuff. I was a business, did a lot of business banking stuff as well. So it's like I know, the business side of things really well, and investments and all this stuff. But what happens is I go, I want to make this giant monster, and here's how I can justify it. That's like, it's never like I'm going to make money on this thing. It's like, no, I got to make this crazy monster and come up with a reason to do it. I actually had before all this mess happened that derailed my big plans. I had a guy that I met at Comic-Con last year that was going to be my agent for all of these horror attraction places, like haunted houses, haunted attractions and stuff, because I wanted to branch out and start doing those things, and I just didn't have the time, So I was going to have this guy be my agent, basically, and he'd take a cut of this, of that business for finding the work and whatnot, and get me where I could make these big haunted house type things.
All right.
And then the other was we were going to do. They have like princess parties and fairy parties and mermaids and this kind of stuff for kids' birthdays. I wanted to do big creature suits where you'd have a troll, like Tea Time with Trolls.
Oh,
and
man.
These big mountains come.
Oh,
And
man.
like just hang out and have like a party at your house,
Hell, forget kids. I want it for me.
That's what I'm saying. There's going to be more adults doing this. But getting it, I love the prosthetic stuff, but I don't want to do it for work because it's really just labor intensive. It's crazy. My day, and I have a huge respect for the people that do this as a job in Hollywood or in the movie industry. My day for Comic-Con, so it started the week before. I put for Jim, when I put him into Killer Croc, there were 43 prosthetic appliances, individual prosthetic appliances to make that costume for him, that look for him. So you got to cast all that stuff. You got to pre-paint it as much as you can. It was, I think the first application was 6 hours to get him into it and get it all patched and then a full body paint on him, or not full, but on the waist up, because he had a shirt off for the whole thing. So that's day one, and then you got to get him out of the stuff. So that was another like hour and a half to get him out of the stuff, and you're exhausted from Comic-Con at the end of the day. I then had to recast about half of that stuff because you can reuse some of it, but not others. Everybody's exhausted, passed out. I had to stay up till like 1 or 2 in the morning after working a full Comic-Con. This is Saturday. Or no, I think we did Saturday and then we had it on Sunday. But then the next day I had to get up like at 5 in the morning and put him back into this stuff so that we could be there, at the show. I fell asleep sitting up at my own booth at Comic-Con. I was just It's just
Well,
exhausting.
folks,
So to do it for events, like a one-off event would be great, but I don't want to do that for work, man. That's too much
no.
work.
But folks need to realize just it's for them. It's going to Comic Con and seeing all the stuff. It's a great escape. But
Yeah,
for a vendor or an artist who's there all day, it's nice. We enjoy it, but I got to tell you that it's also work. It's
it is.
just you leave that place that at night when the vending hall closes up, and you think, well, I'd like to go to this one party, but I'm
Yeah.
wiped out.
Yeah, we always do that afterwards. It's like everybody's like, "Hey, come out, hang out at this bar," and I'm like, "I'm sleeping." Like I don't know, like I can't. It's too much. But yeah, but we've met so many. I mean, we met so many great people at the cons, at the conventions. A ton of fans, but mostly the thing that we like doing the conventions for is getting to hang out with our artist friends like you.
Oh yeah,
Um,
same here.
when you and your wife, like, we got to hang out this last show for quite for quite a bit. It was that's we love that so much, man. And
Yeah.
some of our best friends, my shop assistant, we met at Comic Con. Like I think it's 4 or 5 years ago now, and just hit it off. And then he got invited to artist meetups, and then became friends. And now he works for me. He works for me a day or two a week now, helping out in the shop and learning how to do all this crazy stuff. So it's really neat, the interactions and people that you get, and that's why this year's been rough.
Oh yeah, very rough.
Really
Yes.
how much I enjoy doing those shows and getting to interact with other artists. We've got a lot of friends here, local that are artists, but it's like we miss all you guys, man. So yeah.
Well, I would say for me, about 75% of my income is gone. Just poof, gone. But here's the thing: it's giving me. I'm not going to complain too loudly because it's giving me a chance to rethink my business model,
Yeah.
and it's also giving me a chance to sculpt. I mean, I'm sculpting every day now, and
Oh, we talked about that last week.
yeah,
It's like our average, people don't realize our average work week, how long it is. And like just filling orders can be 50, 60 hours a week a lot
yeah,
of times. Like at the end of, a full work day or more than full work day, do you really want to spend 3 hours, doing another sculpt? It's tough.
right. I mean, just to give an example, I mean, in one given year, there's a little bitty dragon about this big that I sell, and we sold 520 of them,
Nice.
and um, that is a lot of painting. That's a lot of
Oh yeah.
casting. That's
Even
a
small people don't
oh
realize.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
And when you're doing it, there last year, right up to Gen Con and Dragon Con, I was spending, you know, all day, 10, 12 hours a day, just sitting there painting one after another.
I
uh,
hear you.
so in a sense, what's happened here this year has given me a chance to rethink things, and not that I'm ever going to, give up on casting and selling replicas, but
Yeah.
it's also giving me a chance to sculpt more and to invest more into social media and
Yeah.
doing things like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's not the same as hanging out at the bar with you, man, but it is pretty cool to hang out with you, um, and to learn more about your journey and all the rest of it. So,
Yeah. Absolutely, man. But yeah, and it hit me. Thankfully, most of my business, I'm kind of the opposite business model of what you are. Mine was 75, 80% online, and then I only really did 2 or 3 shows a year. Even last year, I think I did 4 shows. Um, but stuff stopped. As soon as quarantine hit, stuff just stopped,
yeah,
and there wasn't any of the safety nets, in place at the time. Everybody's talking about unemployment. I'm like, I am self-employed. Like that doesn't apply. Thankfully they did stuff to help people like us, at least in Michigan.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean I applied for the EIDL loan and got that, and
Oh, good. Yeah.
PPP,
Yeah.
the payroll protection program.
Nice.
So I'm okay.
Yeah, that part was scary for all of us. No matter what the business model was, it was just not fun. But I actually started, thinking that maybe I got to get back into the, teaching people to fight, and this kind of stuff. And I started kind of second guessing, because I've been fighting since 1996 when I got started in that stuff. So that's something that I know really, and I box every week. I broke this hand and dislocated this thumb just just this year. So
Oh man,
the two jobs are
you got to
not
be careful with these. You better
Yeah,
insure them.
I've got some super expensive gloves at this point, just because I got to keep my money, money making safe. But it's like at the same point, that's part of who I am, and it's a big part. But I looked at that and I was like, that's when the world is going to hell in a handbasket, it's like maybe that's more relevant than my artwork, because a lot of my art, at least now, is focused on, like Laura's work is focused on, like I mentioned, focused on nature, and really loving the natural things, and trees fascinate me just to no end. I think we talked about that at Comic-Con a bit when I released my tree, my ant mask. Laura comes at it from the positive side, where these things are beautiful, wonderful, and fun, just magnificent creatures. So love them and take care of them. So kind of looking at it from the positive side. Mine, I'm looking more from connecting back to some of like the Norse and the Celtic and these kind of old traditions, where if you didn't respect the forest, it would eat you.
Yeah.
It was a dangerous, scary thing. And I think we've gotten to a place with nature being tamed. It's not, and that's really a big theme with my artwork, is like the fawn thing is actually a Manitou, which is a forest spirit that if you don't respect the forest, these things would kill you, or they'd beat you senseless and that type of thing.
That's the Forest Lord, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the theories. I did 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah,
But,
I love that coloring on that rust looking.
Oh, yeah.
It's just awesome, and then the horns themselves, so organically tree like. It's
And I'm
fantastic.
getting better at those forms, because it's tree stuff's really hard to sculpt once you start looking at them. But it was like, so I'm coming at it from the other side, where it's like, hey, respect these things or bad stuff is going to happen. So both of us are focused on the same thing, which is protect and love the environment and the beautiful things that are there. And mine's just kind of from a bit darker perspective on it, that type of thing. And I love sculpting those types of big scary monsters is the other thing. So it's like, but there's actually a lot of meaning behind some of the stuff that I get into. So for me, it was this, I had this after the money disappeared for a little bit there. It was like, do I go back into the violent stuff, or do I keep, going on the environmental issues and this type of thing, which is the core of my work? Protecting the trees and the animals and this kind of stuff that most of my work is based on. And for a little bit there, I was lost. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and then started reading and a lot of different books and this kind of stuff. I was like, no, this is important stuff, and it's going to always be important stuff, no matter the turmoil and this kind of thing. And yes, we have some fires going on in America and around the world right now with stuff that's not environmental related, this kind of thing. But it's like it's always there, So it's like, just because I'm not talking about the most important thing at the moment with my artwork, doesn't mean that it's not important anymore at all. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
just pushed to the side of it. So it really helped me it helped me focus to go through that. Kind of helped me focus on what I want, what direction I want to really focus my work on. Because before it was kind of like everything. I wanted to, do creature suits. I wanted to do prosthetic appliances. I wanted to do one of a kinds only, and just make one of a kinds and be so famous that I could sell those like crazy, which is you can't do in today's environment at all. Then I wanted to make fun little, silly Froud creatures and this kind of stuff. And it's like I finally got to a place where everything's balancing. It feels like I was going to do a bunch of fine art stuff with. I've got a huge octopus that's due for a collector in Spain. Got a bunch of seahorses and that type of thing around it. It's still a work in progress. I haven't posted pictures of it yet, but it's.
You did one where you did an octopus truck.
Yeah, I did a photo for a pirate.
Oh my goodness, I like that picture.
And that's the thing. I get really easily scattered because I just love everything. I love all of this stuff. You know what I mean? But I'm finally able to get all of this stuff to kind of gel together and have these themes be there, even if they're not like slapping you in the face. Because I think a lot of art is too overt with the message. It's like preaching at you, and I don't like that.
All right.
I kind of want it to be an underlying, type of thing.
I find that I like a lot of I like scary stuff, but I also like scary funny.
Yeah.
With a sense of really kind of warped humor.
Yeah. Well, that's the neat thing that I found because I did my first horror convention last year, and I never thought of my work as horror related. I did that giant spider suit, and I was like, oh, it's just a neat spider alien. It's like, no, it's a horror creature. It really is. For most people, they have a really strong, aversion and reaction to that. And actually, the lady that did the original photography work for that had to stop photographing a couple times because she was just so freaked out by the monster.
Wow.
Even though she knows that I'm in there, it just bugged her really bad.
But
I never thought of work as horror, but I eventually realized I've done a ton of skull stuff. I've done a ton of darker work. But the thing that I noticed at this horror convention, everybody there was laughing. And the people that come to these things, they all have a great sense of humor. Like that's the main thing that I would take away from this horror conventions is that people have a ridiculous sense of humor, and it is darker, But it's when people get scared, there's a reason haunted attractions do so well. I mean, it's a huge industry. But when people get scared, almost always their reaction immediately afterward is just to burst out laughing.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just a weird reaction that everybody does. Like they can be just terrified, jumping up in the air and screaming, and half a second later they're laughing. And there's something like cathartic about the horror type stuff that releases that, and it makes you appreciate where you're at. I think, like you're safe. Your daily life, you're safe. You don't have to worry about some crazy axe murderer or some werewolf or zombie or monster jumping out at you. And it's like but it makes you appreciate it a little bit, even on a subconscious level. It's kind of neat. So a lot of I love some of the darker stuff. But again, it's got to have a sense of humor to it for me.
Yeah, I think when I go to some of the horror shows, there's a lot of what goes from horror into gross. It just gets so gross.
I like the gore. I don't do any gore. Not my thing. That's a different crowd.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing for me. I don't really appreciate that, but I do appreciate horror. I mean, I like things that I did a painting of a little dragon sitting on a tree limb, and he's looking over at a little bluebird, and there's a little feather.
That's the reaction. We're laughing.
So I like that kind of humor, and still very it's still very morbid, but it's also funny because it's a commentary on life.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way with that kind of stuff. it's just a neat reaction. And the other, I listened to Chet Zar, the Dark Art Society, um, and it's all, it's these dark artists, but they're all, you get on there and they're hilarious people in general. But a lot of them talk about using their artwork to work through some of the darkness that they have had to cope with in their lives and this kind of stuff. And it's their way of like letting it go almost. You get like a lot of the cathartic type stuff. It allows you to move on. And for me, one of the big things is I used to be, grossed out, or not really grossed out, but how like a spider or something like that. I didn't like those things.
Oh yeah.
And like that, they weirded me out. But I've sculpted those forms so much over the past few years. They don't bother me at all anymore. Like I'll pick them up, like people, there'd be one running across the floor, so I'll just grab it and take it outside and let it go. They don't bother me the way that they used to at all, and I appreciate them now for being like just an incredibly sculpt one with good reference art, and you will have such an appreciation for that thing after going through that and just seeing the gorgeous forms, the shapes, the curves, the flow of the forms of those things is just incredible. It's unreal. All the different eye configurations that they can have, it's just nuts. I'm doing a real big. Well, the body's only that big, so it's like basketball size or a little bit bigger, and it's a spider, but it's a buffalo spider that has big horns coming off. The horns are like 3 feet. They're like 3 feet long, 4 feet long horns that are going to be growing out of the back of this thing. And then there's a bunch of tree forms, like it's armored itself in tree bark. But pulling reference for that, man, is just like there's just so many ogre face spiders. Those things are incredible. But just seeing, I don't know if you can interact and study something that closely and not think that it's just amazing after going through that much work and getting used to it for that amount of time. They're beautiful. They're really just gorgeous,
thinking about comedy or humor, if you really think about it, there is nothing, no joke, no bit of humor that doesn't involve some type of pain or somebody else's discomfort or embarrassment. It's just the way it is. It's our way of dealing with that kind of thing, and of healing with it. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. And then the moment I saw your artwork, I thought, man, I love this stuff.
As soon as they walk past, and this is a discussion I've had with a few people. I walk past your booth as another sculptor who's doing fantasy art at the same convention. So we are, in a sense, direct competitors. We both have dragons in our booth. We both have some Cthulhu stuff. All these different shared things. And my initial reaction wasn't like, oh, there's another sculptor here. This guy's really good. Shit. My reaction was like, this is awesome. Like, this is another person that's this, like, this is like a brother that I haven't met yet. It's such a great thing, that the sculpture community especially has, where we don't compete, and nobody's going to confuse our two takes on the same thing. It's like, no, that's David's, this is Aaron's. It's like it's very obvious which is which. So that's the thing, is like we're celebrating the exact same things and ideas in totally different ways.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't ever view it as competition. I just view it as, I was just like intrigued the moment I saw your work. I thought, oh my God, this is so cool. You see something and it inspires you to go into the next sculpt with a different outlook. You're like, I'm driving my artwork that way. It's like interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I had one of the best compliments I've ever had was from Pui Illustrated. Look his stuff up. I think you'd really like it. Really, just incredible artwork. But he came over to my booth, and I didn't know he was a fellow artist. But he comes up and is just staring, at each piece. And about the second or third piece that he was looking at, I was like, this guy's another artist. Like we look at things more minutely and in more detail and from different angles than the average person does.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, yeah, this is another artist. So I asked him, I was like, hey, you're another artist. He looks at me and didn't answer my question. He goes, you have a beautiful mind. Like, I appreciate that, man. That's great. So it's, yeah, then to say, I went to his thing and just jaw dropped, man, the level of work this guy puts in. And then he writes up, I really like this idea. He writes up some of the thoughts that he had for this piece, like his take on his own work, like why he did this piece the way that it is. And I'm like, man, he's another one he's got a beautiful mind. It's just crazy. Seeing other people's take on different ideas. And it, like you said, I went home and I was like, man, he is onto something with the idea behind this painting, and it caused me to start thinking of another couple pieces, it's crazy. But,
hey, John F says, can't wait to terrorize the horror cons with the spider suit.
Yes.
He says, I'm going to have a buddy do a video of the first con.
So, nice, man.
Yeah, very cool.
I really appreciate that. Well, and I feel bad because whenever I have a piece, I want it to look perfect. Whenever I'm showing it, and I'm trying to get over that. And this piece I'm showing, he's going to have a costume built for this thing. So this is all the mechanics of the sculpt. And then John's going to have he's going to have like a crazy cloak and all kinds of costume elements on there to hide all the tubes, the ugly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to see is that finished, that crazy finished, like looks like it's a real creature type thing. That's going to be nuts. That's going to be so cool to see. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the video, man. I can't wait to see that stuff.
I
We
like
got to get the shows back open. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I like I also like the engineering aspect of sculpture, and I'm sure you do too. I mean, look at what you've done with that spider suit, man.
That thing, I've said this to poor John, like he's talked about like how neat different aspects of it are, and I keep going we email back and forth, and I'm like, it stands up by itself.
Yeah.
The suit stands on its own. Like, do you realize how awesome that is? But it's like, because Laura got in that thing, and she's tiny. Her build is really, really small. And she can move it around and everything, but it's a big suit. It's got it's got the latex, it's got the legs, all the tubes and this kind of stuff. So she can move around and carry the weight, but as soon as she stops, it takes all the weight off. And that was my main concern building this thing, was that the engineering side would be right. That took me as much time to figure all that stuff out and experiment as it did to sculpt it, just the engineering side of it. And that was one thing that for cosplay or for conventions where you're wearing this thing for 6-8 hours or something, you got to build light and strong and easy to, everything's got to be easy. For movies, it's got to be comfortable for 30 seconds. And it's got to stay together. It's got to stay together for the shoot, and then after that, it's trash. That's how that industry works, and that bothers me, man. Something that you put your heart and soul into, and did all this just insane amount of work, and then it gets 2 seconds of screen time in some cases, or it's cut from the movie altogether. Like Norman Cabrera talked about he built this just crazy werewolf for one of I can't remember what movie it was for, and I saw I saw footage of it and stuff, or still shots of it, and it was an awesome piece, but it had to get cut because it was like that scene didn't need to be in the movie. You know what I mean? And it's like I can't imagine I can't imagine putting that much work into something like a full, fully sculpted thing. All the work to get the guy into it, and all the paint work, hair work, everything, costume, and it's like, no, we didn't use it. Like
Wow.
I would just die. That would kill me, you know. So that's something I like about this type of the cosplay community is like they want something that's gonna last, you know.
I mean, I do a lot of watching of Bill Doran with Punish Props and
Oh yeah, yeah,
Evil Ted. I met Evil Ted at St. Louis ArtCon. He was really a nice guy.
yeah,
And these guys, they work a lot with that EVA foam, but they
yeah.
also do a mix of casting and carving and sculpting, and I like
And
why.
that's what I want to see. That's what I eventually want to get the cosplay community into a bit more, because I've helped friends out like Erica Syverson, Cause Draws. If you want to look her work up, and some of this stuff's on there. But I did a nose removal piece for her, so it looks like this flat,
Oh
like
wow,
just removes the nose. Prosthetic for her, and then I did this little bone minion critter that rode around on her shoulder for her character.
cool.
Um, but she did, and then we did the hat or this big like mushroom hat type thing that she built out of expanding foam and then like a latex covering over that, and people went nuts because there was a lot of elements that were just different, and she put just an ungodly amount of hours into that build. Crazy. But because she had those extra elements that weren't just straight EVA foam, it really stood out. It really stood out from the competition. And it's like EVA foam is awesome for a lot of stuff, but I really think people, if they want to evolve to get kind of the next level, they need to start using more materials, and they need to get into some of the sculpting stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
fabrication can only take you so far.
What's that one? I can't think of her name now, but she did this awesome shield, and she used some foam, from some foam clay to augment the EVA foam, and I thought it was just magnificently done. It was just so beautiful. Um, there's all these materials. I mean, think about, man, when I first started into doing the conventions back in the late '80s,
Yeah.
there just wasn't anything. There wasn't any of this kind of video and
Oh yeah.
no internet, no source materials. I mean, you had to really dig to get into any type of makeup and everything. And some of those old movies that from the '60s and '70s, cosplayers today are outdoing those. I mean,
Oh
they
yeah.
do a much better job.
Oh,
Uh,
I know it's real, man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of the materials, uh, the first like silicone prosthetics were used in, like Harry Potter for those
yeah,
goblins. Those are some of the first like silicone characters for the Gringotts goblins. That stuff, it's not that old,
no,
you know. It's really it's a newer technology. It's like the Smooth On. I'm not sponsored by them, although I should be if they're listening.
yeah, me
Uh,
too.
Awesome company, but I mean, I've heard from guys that used them a while ago, and it was like their stuff was like super hard to use. The mix ratios were nuts. Instead of it being like one part A, one part B, it was like, one part to 37, or 100, 100 parts A to 37 parts B. It's like, you had to do some crazy math to get this stuff to come out right, and then it just wouldn't work half the time. And
Yeah,
that company they've got a huge line of stuff. So anybody that wants to get into this kind of stuff, they do amazing products.
and a
Um,
lot of how-to videos.
oh yeah,
Man,
that's
I
the
mean,
other
if you want to know something, they've got a video on it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I really appreciate those guys so much. They allow us to do what we do, and
Sure.
have crazy projects you can do now. Where before it was like you had to know the special mixes for foam latex and this kind of stuff to be able to do it
Yeah,
right and have a big foam oven, to cook your appliances and whatnot in. So
yeah. And then some of it was really devastating to their health too. back
No,
in the day. I mean,
absolutely.
stuff that I would actually put you under. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
John Juries says thoughts on virtual artist alleys. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
I
mean, for that, I think it's great. I think it's great that the artists are banding together. I think it's mostly artists banding together.
hmm,
If you go to a really, it's like bad conventions or bad fairs, uh, where not many people show up. You'll sell to the other artists, so you're basically making art trades. And I suspect in the beginning it's going to be that way. But I think if I hope this doesn't happen, but if the coronavirus keeps going and shuts conventions down for a longer time, things will shift to that. I think. And again, I have no crystal ball on this, but my problem with a lot of this stuff that I've seen is there are not that many sales from what I've heard, which is a shame. But again, you got mostly just other artists showing up for these, and I really hope. I think San
okay.
Diego, like Comic Con's doing one. I think if it becomes normal, people will do it, and if it does, then it's going to be a great outlet for stuff. But it's I think from a business model, and David, you were one of the reasons that I am successful as a business person in this industry, because you opened my eyes to how a product line should be run. Um, with having a huge range of product and a huge range of colors in each thing and different finishes and all that. That took me doing that has made it where I can do what I do. So I have a huge appreciation for the you kind of setting the stage for that, because a lot of other people that I talk to are like, can't make a living at it. You can't you got to work for a studio, or you got to be in Hollywood, or you're never going to make it one of a kind, which is probably true for most people. It was definitely true for me. I'm too slow. But yeah, like having that big broad product range is good. But anyway, back to what John was asking. I hope it takes off.
I do too.
I
But
haven't participated in any because I think at this stage for me, I'm doing okay. Thank you for all of you guys that have bought my work
yes.
this year in particular. Things were bad for like a month, and then it just roared back. We had one of my best online months ever just in June. So thank you so much for that. That was huge. So we actually are doing good this year, and I can't believe that with all the setbacks that we've had.
It's pretty remarkable because a lot of our fans, I would imagine a lot of our fans work in industries like restaurants and
Yeah.
things that have been impacted. They've lost jobs. I don't know. I mean, I know that they're probably hurting too, but
Well, and just the uncertainty of not knowing. Like once thing, I think those months were good because stuff had settled down. People realized it's not the zombies are not coming. So the world's not going to end. But also that they knew they were going to get paychecks, and they knew that things were going to be going okay, even if they're on unemployment, or something like that. So a lot of people, I think it was okay.
yeah.
And I think once they knew that, they were fine. Now we've had another rain. Now in the U.S. we've had another bout of uncertainty. A lot of the benefits are set to expire. We don't know, and I've seen a slight dip in sales the past couple of weeks just because of the uncertainty again. I think once we get more certain, things will get better. But
Yeah.
Online, I think like your version of how you're doing your product line. You have a really broad product line. You need to think like an octopus. You need to have, conventions are, one arm. Online, like an Etsy store is another
Right.
arm.
Yes.
Is another arm. One thing that I started doing, thanks, again, is kind of what you're talking about. I'm gonna start doing some Twitch stuff, and then I'm probably gonna start a Patreon, because those are ways that I can, interact with clients and fans, and they can kind of see the behind the scenes stuff. with a lot of this, which for me, like I did 3 full live castings last year, or 2 years ago. I did Jim. I did a full torso cast of Laura. We did one of Justin from Just in Time Props for him to build some stuff on. I did hands from one of my buddies, buddy David. I didn't show any of that. I posted maybe a picture or two, and it's like, for me, I take it for granted because this is just my life. But then other people start talking about it. And it's like, you did what? You did the life casting? Like this is cool. This is crazy.
You need to.
It's not something you see every day.
You need to put that onto video.
I need to open up and start showing people my studio. Start showing my process. I invested in a new phone that's got a good camera for video. I've got a bunch of new light rigs so that stuff looks good. So I'm trying to branch out and grow an extra arm,
Right. Yes.
To do that kind of thing and to make my livelihood more secure. Because I have to do this stuff. And even if I'm working a 40-hour-a-week day job, I'm still going to be doing this. 20, 30 hours a week. It's tough. It's tough to live that way, and I did it for a lot of years. And thankfully now I can just do one job, with this, because I've got enough tentacles out there that are grabbing. For me, money's not the goal. It's just like it buys me freedom. It gives me the freedom to sculpt the giant. I'm sculpting a giant, spider pet, basically for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can afford to do that because, that it's not. I expect to sell 1 or 2 of those maybe, over 10 years. But I'm financially secure enough where I can sculpt a giant spider, and you guys can see it. Everybody can see it online, and hopefully, like just your enjoyment, as you're scrolling through Instagram, like that makes your life a little happier. Like that's cool,
Yes.
Even if you want to end up buying one, it's like I made you smile because you're like, that is insane. Like that's really, that's really neat.
I kind of feel like with the virtual stuff going on, it's a bit overwhelming at this point because every convention out there, I feel like I'm trying to take a drink of water from a fire hydrant. It's just so much, and if they could just kind of consolidate a little bit, that would be a big help, because I've got so many of those conventions asking, can you submit some photos? Can you do this? Can you do that? It's overwhelming.
And for me, like I have the time to do it. I don't have the energy to do it a lot of time. Because my energy is for sculpting. I looked over my sculpting table. Like that's where I love to paint and I love to sculpt. Anything that I'm doing apart from that has to secure my freedom to do the things I love. So for me, it's like that's a high risk thing to spend an hour uploading videos and talking to this person, and it never goes as smoothly as it should with technology, at least for me. Thank you for your patience yesterday, John. It took me like 5 hours to upload a YouTube video. Anyway, it just doesn't go smoothly all the time. And it's like, I can either be sculpting something new or I can be supporting things I know are going to make me money. Yes. I know putting stuff on my website is going to make me money. I know putting stuff on Etsy is going to make me money. I know posting on Instagram and Facebook are going to make are going to bring collectors in that I'm going to be able to support my lifestyle. I can't count on these online things.
No,
they're too new. I have no data. I have no data to
but diversifying is key at this point, I think.
Yeah.
You have to have, like you say, you have to be an octopus at this point. You have to have all of the feelers out to see what's going to work. One of the problems I had with my working model, a business model, was that I pretty much said, man, this is great. I'm selling great at these conventions. Let's just keep on going. The moment that
Yeah.
was cut, it was like, oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. It's
Well, and
just,
for me, I look at it like, look, if the internet is stable, and I don't think it's the best way to sell sculptures because you don't get the tangible thing, and the sense of scale disappears, especially when you're like the two of us, man. Like you've got dragon heads that are like this big. Things are
yeah,
just massive, you know.
yeah.
But you see a picture of that online, and it's like, oh, everybody for some reason translate these things to a certain size in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they see the dimensions printed next to it in their brain, they're like, no, this thing's this big, or this big, or that big, and everybody's got a different thing for that.
It is so
So
different.
in
Yeah.
a convention, you can really see it, and that's something I'm going to be doing is posting videos. My website and Etsy now allow videos. So I'm going to take full advantage of that, and I'm going to be in the video. It's like, well, it's like you said with this seahorse back here. It's like I
So
had no
much
idea
bigger. Yeah.
that big.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times people are going to be We have to approach the internet and make it as lifelike and personable as we can. And I think there are a lot of tools out there now that make it easy, or easier, like the Twitch streams, the Patreon, YouTube, even being accessible to the average Joe. All of this kind of stuff is going to be key. But again, like if you try to do, if you take the shotgun approach, I don't think that's the best way to approach this. I think you've got to really, like people talk about, oh, my Etsy's not doing well. I'm like, well, how often do you update it? Well, I updated it once last year. Maybe that's the problem. You know what I mean? Whatever you put effort toward and focus on is what's going to happen. Whatever you feed is going to grow, And for me, I did not care about online followers and Instagram and Facebook. I'm like, my finished work stands for itself, is how I look at stuff a lot of times. So I would post finished pieces, so I wasn't posting all the time because it's just, it's not every day you finish, a whole sculpt, mold, cast, and get it painted. That doesn't happen every week. So for me, it was like, my mindset was like, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to, just do what I'm doing. And I was making enough to make a living at it. I don't think that's going to be the case now. I think that I've got to grow extra arms and I've got to do, some of the stuff, but I'm not going nuts and I'm not doing my Patreon. I'm not starting that up until I get comfortable with all this stuff and can really support it right. Because I've had friends that have run it correctly and it grew very quickly. And I've had other friends that were like, my Patreon doesn't do much. It's like, and I check it, and they've posted one thing at the beginning and then one other post. They have 2 posts in like months on a Patreon and expect it to grow.
Yeah, you have to. I think they recommend that you have to contribute at least 2 things every other week.
Yeah.
To make a go of it.
Yeah.
I tell you though, I have an idea for you. For your Patreon, you do a little Monster of the Month club.
Oh yeah.
So you have not big ones, but just like little guys, and they're list them as what they are, collectibles, and then include the shipping in it. And make it something like $35, whatever you can manage to do. And then every month you just ship out a little monster to them. I'd like to do that. I would buy into that just to have Arend Smith's collection of monsters.
That would be sweet, man. And that's kind of what I'm kind of seeing. I'm getting a feel for this stuff. I posted more to social media in the past week or two since talking to you. You kind of got lit a fire with that stuff. I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it.
Well, let me know anything I can do to help you. Let me know.
Yeah, and likewise, man. Yeah, same here. But I posted more in the past week or two than I have the whole year. I think as far as like total number of posts and whatnot. So I'm trying to, but again, like, with John's comment, John Jury's, for me right now, pursuing online virtual conventions is not a good use of my time, because it's not something if coronavirus disappears, which hopefully is what's going to happen, the virtual things will go away because we'll have real conventions to go to. You know what I mean? Or they'll be downsized in importance. So for me, it's like, I don't need it for this year, so I'm not going to do it. It's kind of my answer on that.
I am doing Gen Con and Dragon Con, but beyond that, I'll take that back. I did Demicon. I was scheduled to be artist guest of honor, and of course it caved in. But so,
thanks, Corona.
So I did a little, like, much like we're doing here, like a little interview thing with them, and it was fun, and it did pay off. I mean, and then I'm re-invited for next year. Hopefully we get rid of this coronavirus by then, or we have a vaccine. But one of the things that happened to me was that when my son told me back in March, Dad, the rest of the year is gone, and I got really mad at him. I didn't want him to say this, I didn't want him to. I went through a whole grieving process because I was thinking about, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? I mean, how are we going to make the next in meet? But I'm just hoping, like you, I hope it does, the virtual thing does go away, in the sense that we'll have, right. But I would like to get to a point where maybe I'm doing only, 7 or 8 conventions a year. And
that's where, like, for me, the Renaissance Festival is 7 weekends. I can comfortably, you basically prep the rest of your year for those 7 weekends and you're done. And I think that's for me, it's a much healthier lifestyle. I don't enjoy doing back-to-back-to-back shows. You're a hustler, man. You get out there and work. Like, huge amount of respect for that. Also, I've never seen someone set up and break down as fast as you do.
Hey, you do it.
Transformer.
You do it enough times.
Watching this, if you get to do a show with David, like, ask to see his, like, setup and breakdown. It's ridiculous. It's seriously, it's like a transformer that just folds in on itself. It rolls itself out. It's nuts. But yeah, it's impressive to see. But yeah, doing that many shows, man, that's got to get old eventually.
Very old,
and anything where you're depending on one source of income is scary for me.
It is. I just never saw it that way before. It never occurred to me, that we would stop having conventions.
Yeah. Who thought the plague would hit again?
I don't know. It just wasn't in my vocabulary, I guess.
None of us. Yeah. But that's something all of us have got to work on, is to figure out. And I think for me, a ton of good has come out of this, because I'd be doing, 4 or 5 shows a year, or doing the Renaissance Festival and doing my online sales, and never connecting or interacting with people. I've had better conversations online, again, because I'm putting the effort into online. I'm having great conversations with people, instead of people just going, love this, with a bunch of emoticons, or this is great, and that's it. It's people are asking, like, I did the Beholder live, I sculpted a little time lapse thing, and, like, people were asking about different steps that I was doing in that, and, like, they saw the freeze spray can come out, to freeze the monster clay down and this kind of stuff, and they were like, what are you doing there? Like, what is this? So I'm getting, like, actual good interactions out of online, and that was always my reason I didn't want to do it, was because it was like, I feel bad, not responding to people, but it's like, some of my pieces, especially like the Snailien that went viral, it was like, some of these threads had like 800 or 900 comments. Comments. It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't go through and just, like, thanks. It'd be like a whole day of doing that, and it doesn't really mean anything.
No, but yeah, Well, it
So,
is gratifying to see all of that.
oh, man, thought that was awesome. Yeah.
But
But at the same time,
you need to get onto
challenge,
Twitch.
challenge. What's that?
You need to get onto Twitch, and that way we can support each other
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Um,
I absolutely, man. I will every time and my goal for my show, and you can steal this idea. I'm gonna have I'm gonna have somebody on with me.
cool.
There's like so it's more like a podcast type thing. The
Right.
focus is on whatever I'm sculpting or whatever I'm doing, but I have a bad habit of over focusing, and it'll be 10 minutes before I talk again, and that's really kind of
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know that feeling.
Like it's cool in a time lapse or whatever.
I
But it's
just
like
I'm
5
sculpting away and I forget. Like, oh wait, yeah, there was supposed to be something in here. I'm supposed to say something.
I was at I was sculpting live in a comic thing, and like after the first day, I just got so used to it. So I'm sculpting. I had a and I'm blocked. You know, the thing was like half blocked or three quarters blocked in, and I'm getting to the fun stuff. I'm able to put muscle groups and some of the some of the secondary forms and that kind of stuff, which is my favorite stage. Um, I'm doing that, and I'm just like I had this whole flash for this entire section of this dragon, like scale work, patterning, everything. You know, the macro scales, and then getting into the before the detail scales. Um, I'm slapping clay on like crazy and shifting the forms, and everything's going right. And I must have not looked up because the store was empty when this happened. Like there was nobody in there. I look up and there are 20 people around me. And I think I actually did like I'm kneeling down, and I think I like fell over like, oh shit, what is going on here? But it was like I zoned so bad that I didn't notice that there was this like crowd of people around me. So I'm like, I can't do that online. I gotta have somebody
Yeah.
here to like keep things flowing, keep stuff in check, and it's so I'll have my wife on, I'll have my shop assistant Sam. We always have like good talks, and then I'm gonna have different artists from my community on. John Juries, if you're still on, you're gonna be on one of these. I'm drafting you. Yeah, just something like it's like the focus is on the sculpting and everything, but it's gonna have like witty banter and stuff going on too. I think will be kind of a fun
Yeah.
fun experience. Or like have have me teaching how to sculpt like an ear, like, and then have like one or two people that are sculpting along with me, that are more beginners that are going to make the typical beginner mistakes, where the volumes are not correct.
Awesome. Yes. Very
So
awesome.
you see someone doing it right, but I think more importantly is seeing someone do it wrong and correct it. So I think that's going to be a good, I think that'll be a really good thing for people to see.
Yeah.
Different stuff like that. So I think that'd be fun. Like have your son or your wife on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Wives are dangerous to have on because they tease you quite a bit. So.
Oh yeah. And advise me about the camera angle. Hey, we've been on. Speaking about being on, we've been on for 2 hours.
Whoa.
So, any closing thoughts, Aaron? Anything that you want folks to remember and tune into?
Well, this too shall pass is one thing. All the craziness that's going on. I sculpted. I meant to have this over here, but it's something called the Vegvasir, which is it's called the Viking compass, and it's that weird. You've seen it online now. I've posted it a couple times, but it's that weird antler, and it's antler forms and then tusk forms. That piece is basically about it's a symbol, like a runic symbol. That's written down in the 1800s in the Hold manuscript, and it's supposed to be a much older type of thing. But the idea is, if you have this, you will find your way, even in storms, even when the way is not known, is the idea behind this thing. And that's it. That's where we're at. There's storms, there's all kinds of chaos and stuff. We don't know the way forward. We don't know what's going to happen. But people have, the idea of this thing is something that I'm not trying to sell this thing, but it's like the idea. I am trying to sell it. It is on the website, but
but I know what you're talking about, and now I want it. So
these are the same problems that people have had since the Viking Age, where you're worried that you're going to lose your way. You're going to get sunk in this storm. And it's just a reassurance. It's a reassurance that things are going to get better, and you're going to find your way. Even though you can't see it, you're going to find your way forward. And people have been dealing with the same stuff for forever. Since people have existed, we've been dealing with trying to find your way. I went through Havamal, which is like Odin's. It's supposed to be written by Odin, and it's like the Viking book of Proverbs, basically from the Bible. It's the Viking Proverbs basically, and it's tons of stuff that's right applicable today. I read the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. It's the same stuff that we're going through today. The same stuff. So it's really, for me, it's like, times are tough, things are crazy. We're going to get through this, and we're going to make it. So just try to end on a positive note. And all my weird, crazy sculptures. Some of them have some meaning like that. And I want to just bring some happiness into the world a little bit. So that's why I do what I do. So.
Awesome, man. You're awesome.
And I get huge enjoyment. Everybody check David's stuff out. Your work, I've got a couple things. Your two dragons, the curling ones, are on the wall in my living room, and I've got that griffin.
Thank you very much.
ZBrush now for that, man. I can't. There's no way that I could do that kind of work for the fine detail and the feathers for that griffin pendant.
Oh yeah.
Nuts, man. Yeah, so, all of my people that are listening to this, go check David's work out. So yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But hey, it's been a pleasure to have you on and to just really chat, man. It's like hanging out at the bar, man. It's really good.
We'll have to make a habit of this, man. We'll have to have I'll interview you next time. We'll do it that way.
All right. That sounds cool.
All right, man.
Thank you so much.
Guys, thanks again. I'll see you.
All right.